Hey guys, we get asked fairly regularly what the deal is with the Yakuza in Japan. So I guess people are curious because of Hollywood and that sort of thing. The reality is that you don't usually see them unless you hang out in the seedier parts of the big cities, in which case you might, but usually you don't. I've seen them over the years. I've seen them a few times driving from place to place. You'll sometimes see the big black cars with the tinted windows and the personalised number plates with just one number or two numbers or something on it. Not to say that if you see a black car with tinted windows in Japan that it's Yakuza. It's not necessarily the case, but you often know if it is. You know, a couple of times I've been in big cities and they've come roaring through on the wrong side of the street and through an intersection, through a red light, and roared off up the street. And that's not an uncommon occurrence, apparently. They tend to treat road rules and other people on the road as a bit, just a little bit of a nuisance, and tend to ignore it and roar through red lights and things like that. If you find yourself driving in Japan and you come across a big black car with tinted windows cutting you off in an intersection or something, just don't react is the best strategy. Just let it go on by. So yeah, that's probably the most likely contact you'll have is seeing the big black cars. If you go to the seedier parts of the big cities, you might see the guys walking around in groups and things. Quite often what people mistake for Yakuza are just low-level guys, because the high-level guys, they're really involved mostly in extortion and in white-collar crime. So they're not usually standing around on street corners intimidating people. They tend to be the low-level guys or the wannabe guys. So, you know, a lot of people come to Japan and, you know, go to Roppongi or somewhere in the Gaijin ghettos in Tokyo and see guys with heavily tattooed guys standing around on street corners and go, oh, Yakuza, you know. And it's not necessarily the case. Quite often, either those guys are really low-level guys that are right down low-level in the gangs, or they might not even be members at all. They just want to be tough guys that aren't even members of any particular big group. So, of course, Yakuza is the same as the mob in America and different crime groups around the world. There's not actually just one group, of course. There's different families of them, and you know, they have different strengths at different times and that sort of thing. And quite often, if you do hear about Yakuza, sometimes what it is fights or shootouts or fighting between groups. That'll sometimes break out. They have little wars that go on for a few months at a time, and you'll see it on the TV and in the newspapers that there'll be different fights and, you know, guys turning up hurt places and dramas like that happen. So the people that ask us about the Yakuza, you know, that are worried about them, don't worry about them. They don't cause any hassles to the average person usually. They make their money from white-collar crime and also extortion. So quite often there'll be different areas of cities where all the shop owners have to pay a certain amount a month to the Yakuza for protection. You know, it's the old gangster thing that, you know, you have to pay a certain amount a month for protection to stop anything nasty happening to your business. And if you don't pay that money every month, then something nasty probably will happen to your business. So, I mean, it's the old protection racket that's been a part of organised crime forever, other than that white-collar crime. So it means that the average foreigner, either visiting Japan or as a tourist living in Japan, you're not likely to come across them unless you hang out in the really seedy parts of town or you get involved in seedy activities. Now, we mentioned on a previous video about the snack bars. You can go in the snack bars and hang out with the girls, the girly bars basically. If you get involved in that, or you get involved in prostitution, if you get, you know, spend time with prostitutes in Japan or do any of the seedy stuff in Japan, any sort of criminal activity at all, then it's possible that you might bump into Yakuza guys, which would be very unwise for a foreigner to do. Could lead to all sorts of problems. So, you know, for those people that are worried about the Yakuza, don't worry about it. You're not likely to ever see them, and just stay away from the seedy parts of the big cities, and you won't have any problems. You're not likely to have any problems. So the only other time that I've experienced them was in a seedy bar. It wasn't a girl bar, it was just a seedy bar. And I was actually with an Australian guy that had come for a couple of weeks to visit, you know, and he'd never been here before, and we went to this really seedy little bar. It was just a little bar. I'd never been there before. We just wanted to drink and have a talk, and we sat down in this bar and we're talking for a while, and then these two big black cars turned up, and this guy walked in with a group of guys walked in, but the one guy in particular was this like 50-year-old. This is fairly classic. This guy's 50 years old. He's got his big shades on, big dark shades. It's night time, of course. It's, you know, 1 o'clock in the morning, something like that. He's got his dark shades on. He's got a white tracksuit. He's wearing a white tracksuit, and he's wearing Hello Kitty slip-on, like Australians would call them thongs. I don't know what you call them in other countries, but like Crocs, but Hello Kitty Crocs. And it's quite common. It's quite common. It's considered really badass here for guys. Some guys, not always, but and none of this is always the case. This is a generalisation. But yeah, the white tracksuit, the Hello Kitty slip-on sandals, and lots of jewellery on his wrist, big watch, and lots of jewellery and chains, and the Yankee haircut, and yeah, pretty bad looking 50-year-old dude, and a group of younger guys that are all got the big hair and the tattoos and all the stuff going on. And it looked like he was the owner of the bar, the way he came in and sat down at this seat in one corner, and the guys are all just lounging around and walking behind the bar, and it looked like he owned the place. So it's quite possible he did, and you know, a couple more guys hanging around outside near the cars. So yeah, it was a group of Yakuza guys, most likely. So there's no real way to ever know, you know. They don't actually wear t-shirts that say it or anything, so there's no real way to know for sure what you're looking at, you know, whether it's a group from a big Yakuza group, or whether it's just a group of little independent guys, or just some badass guys, or some wannabe guys. You never know. You never know, and it doesn't really matter. It's the same as the mob, you know, in America in the 80s, you know, the mob was really huge and into extortion and organised crime, all the same stuff, you know, and white collar crime and all sorts of stuff. And it's the same as that, and it's all grey. It's not really clear cut when you see a car if it's definitely Yakuza, and if you see a group of guys, it's not really clear cut if it is or not, but you know, it's fairly evident. If you see what I just described with the two black cars and the one guy in the white tracksuit and Hello Kitty sandals is considered pretty badass amongst some of these older tough guys. So you know, just treat these people with respect and just stay away from them, basically. I'm saying this to those people that are worried, you know, the people that we do get contact from people sometimes, emails from people. I'm coming to live in Tokyo, I'm a bit worried about the Yakuza thing, or Osaka. Osaka has a fairly strong Yakuza presence. Most of the big cities have some sort of Yakuza presence, you know, so for those people that contact us and say they're worried, don't worry. You're really not likely to ever see them. And even if you do, they're not going to be interested in you, most likely. Providing you're not doing anything you shouldn't be, you know, providing you haven't got yourself involved with anything naughty, and you're not doing anything you shouldn't be, and you're not some sleazy place that you shouldn't be in, you're likely to never have a problem with them. You rarely hear about people like Joe Citizen having problems with them. Any sort of dramas usually is between themselves, and other people just don't fight them. So basically, if they tell a shop owner that he has to pay a couple $100 a month, he just pays it usually. It's pretty rare to hear stories of people going up against them, or you know, people getting hurt by them, because they just go, yeah, okay. Mostly if you hear about it, they do it to each other. You hear stories here, you know, that recently there was a group of guys, and nobody says it's Yakuza. They say, you know, that in some bar in Tokyo, you know, there was a group of people in there having a party, and another group of people with baseball bats and lumps of wood came in and hurt all these dudes, and one guy ended up either dying or in hospital, and then all these guys left. And that's all the story says, and nobody says, they don't necessarily say it's Yakuza, and they don't necessarily, you know, mention organised crime, but sometimes it's a bit obvious. It's like, yeah, right, okay, two groups of guys coming together in a bar at 3 o'clock in the morning in Tokyo, and, you know, some mysterious violence, some random violence happening. So, as for the police, that's a common question. That comes up a lot too. People say, why don't the police do something about it? Well, probably for the same reason that organised crime has flourished in other countries around the world as well, as it is hard to stop. You know, these guys aren't silly, and the guys that are the bosses in this, you know, they've got their groups, and the street thugs that you see on the street are pretty low level, and they're separated from the real guys and from the important guys. And you know, if anybody gets caught doing anything naughty, it's usually the low-level street guys, you know, which doesn't affect these organisations at all. So that's probably part of it. It is also sometimes said that Japanese police tend to target soft targets, which means, you know, same as we've showed you the motorcycle groups before too, and you know, we've actually showed you a video of those guys driving along in a big group, carrying on and all over the road and making lots of noise, and a police car just cruising along with them, just watching. And that's not unusual, you know, and the police, you know, often just don't take those guys on. They just let them do their thing. Occasionally they will, but they still let them do their thing. And it's been said, or it is often said by different people, that the police here don't want to take on the because they're too tough, and it's easier just to get the soft targets, you know, the people doing the individuals doing the simple crimes. And it does tend to feel like that a bit here, you know, where people speeding over the speed limit or doing something like that get jumped on, but the Yakuza Bosozoku can cruise around at 3 o'clock in the morning and wake everybody up, and the police just leave them alone. And Yakuza's a bit like that, I think. It might be. It's what a lot of people say, is that, you know, the police don't want to take them on because they're a bit worried about them, a bit scared of them or whatever. So, don't know if that's true or not. You know, nobody really knows. Really, most of this stuff is just observations and stuff that we see in the media, on the TV and on the news here, about different activities that are going on, and then just sort of different stuff that's sort of well known amongst the population, you know, all this stuff. So yeah, that's the Yakuza thing, guys. It's not, as always, don't believe the Hollywood stuff, you know. The Hollywood stuff's all very Hollywood, and, you know, when you see the reality here, it's always different. When you see reality's always different from Hollywood, isn't it, you know? So yeah, and to those people that are worried, don't worry. Don't worry, you know, it's you're not likely to have any troubles here with the Yakuza or any other criminals. Just stay away, you know, stay away from the sleazy. You'll notice if you go to the Gaijin ghettos, the Roppongi and the other areas in Tokyo, that you're more likely to come across foreign sus people. You know, there's a lot of Nigerian touts in that area that try to encourage you to go with prostitutes, and, you know, there's foreigners there that are dabbling in the edges of the crime scene there. They're more likely to draw you into trouble there than the Yakuza are. So just stay away. You know, it's good advice in any country if you're in a foreign country, isn't it? Stay away from the seedier areas, and you'll stay out of trouble, you know, basically. So anyway, there it was, Yakuza in Japan. More videos coming soon.